Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Saturday, happy football Saturday. I am the host, Lucian Graves. This is the Saturday AM Scramble here with my guy, Mike. Mike, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing awesome, Lucian. Feeling good. Got a big day of football ahead, and the Gophers are on a bye, so I don't have any stress today.
Right. So, before we get into all of that, thoughts from last weekend's it was my bye week last weekend, so I got to watch a lot of football, but what are your thoughts from last week?
I mean, a couple things that jumped out at me. Once again, Georgia playing with fire. Georgia, they keep winning, but they're not doing it in overwhelming fashion. Just a 4-point victory over a pretty down and out Florida team. And then Texas overcoming Vanderbilt. Now, that was an interesting game. Texas got out to the big lead. Vandy came back. Texas was able to hold on. But I thought Vanderbilt was going to win that game. I was surprised at the result of that. I guess you've got to give Texas a lot of credit for, putting up those points and managing to outlast a really good Vanderbilt squad. And then, in USC's win over Nebraska, Dylan Raiola goes out for the year with an injury, broke his leg. So that puts Nebraska in a really interesting position. A lot of Nebraska fans were basically like, we've got a favorable schedule this year. We need to get at least 8 wins or else make the college football playoff. Well, they're not going to make the college football playoff. And now with Dylan Raiola out, I think it's a questionable if they're going to make it to 8 wins either. They'd have to win 2 of their next 3 to get there. And I'm not sure that's going to happen with a backup quarterback. So I'm just not sure how good Latif, the backup, is. So that's something to monitor to see because if Nebraska goes 6-6 again, or even 7-5, it's going to be a long offseason in Lincoln for Matt Rule. Going to be a long offseason.
And they just signed him to that extension too, so that's interesting too. Something to keep a look at.
Absolutely.
I thought the upsets were more so a little bit more just wow to me. West Virginia defeating Houston. That was interesting to me. I also thought the upset of SMU of Miami, knocking them down a peg. That I thought that was impressive. SMU played good at home. I know we all thought SMU was going to have some turnover problems, but they obviously handled their business. And I thought it's at this point in the season it's anybody's ball game because most teams are beat up. They're playing without players, so this is the time of year where you really see what teams got, especially in the fourth quarter. And another thing that somebody said on ESPN, which I completely agree with, some of these teams that don't have head coaches become more dangerous than they were with their head coach because they don't have anything to lose.
I mean, you look at
with nothing to
UCLA.
lose. Exactly.
A perfect example.
So some of these teams that don't have coaches that are going to be thought of as being like a cakewalk aren't a cakewalk because when you back a freaking animal into a corner, they have no other choice but to fight, and that a lot turns out into a tough football game, especially when you're either playing on the road and you don't have the advantage of your home field advantage. But that's why we watch the sport. That's why I love football, Mike, because you never know what's going to happen on a Saturday
any given
night.
Saturday, always. And it's been that way all year. It's been very, a lot of people have compared this season to the 2007 season because it's been so unpredictable. And I think we might end up with another, with a kind of an unpredictable ending and maybe a winner we don't expect. I think that's all on the table still.
Yeah, I think coming into November, it's going to be this is it. This is when football really counts. So I'm excited.
Yep.
But this week 11, let's get into it right away. We're going to make a big splash. I know this is some teams that we've been excited to talk about this season. So let's hit them first. Mike, this is the nuclear noon showdown that I'm just very, very excited to watch. You have the number 8 ranked Brigham Young Cougars at the number 9 ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders. The point spread is 11.5 Texas Tech. Mike, what do you got on this one?
You've kind of got the unstoppable force and the immovable object here because BYU's offensive line ranks 5th nationally Pro Football Focus run blocking grades. BYU, they can throw the ball a little bit. Bear Bachmeier's got some savvy, but they really want to line you up and run right at you and make their hay that way. So they've been really successful all year doing that. And on the flip side, you got Texas Tech, who has arguably the best defensive line in the country. I mean, Texas Tech has been fantastic. They're really tough up front. The whole defense is good. They're able to score points. So it's a really intriguing matchup to me. You know, the one thing BYU doesn't have is they have some receivers, but they don't have any like true burners who are going to stretch the field. So I wonder if Texas is going to be able to crowd the box and make it hard. Texas Tech is going to be able to, is going to be able to crowd the box and make it hard for them, to do what they want to do. So I'm really interested in this game. 11.5 seems like a huge spread, honestly, as that feels almost disrespectful to BYU. But I know a lot of people think this Texas Tech team is by far the most talented in the Big 12. So I'm not going to be surprised if they win either. So I think I've got Texas Tech here, but I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's back and forth all the way. I think it's something like 30-24 Texas Tech.
So, this is Texas Tech is 5-0 at home. BYU is 4-0 on the road. This is strength on strength, like you said. Texas Tech is first in run defense, only giving up 74.6 yards on the ground. As you said, Brigham Young wants to line you up and just punish you on the ground attack. So I'm excited to see that strength on strength battle. One thing I think that's interesting that is something to kind of keep a look at is neither team is elite at defending the pass. So I think that's where both of those teams could maybe target in a play action, something to keep an eye on. I have this in a little bit larger of a margin. No disrespect to BYU. I just think Texas Tech is coming with something, especially having that home field advantage energy and it being a big noon kickoff. I think Texas Tech plays good at noon. So I have the Raiders covering big 38-23 in that one.
Okay, so you think they're gonna pull away and show and put some separation between themselves and the Mormons?
I think they're going to cause some turnovers.
Yeah,
and that's what's going to lead to short field scoring quickly.
Yeah,
In
no,
that one, Mike.
I could definitely see this. This is a big game for Joey McGuire as Texas Tech's head coach.
Right, and this is
they invested in him. They believed in him by putting their money behind an NIL behind him as a coach. And this is a game where he's got to prove that he's the right guy to coach them, and he's got to find a way to win.
And this is for the king seat of the Big 12 at the same time too.
Yes.
So big implications in that
line.
games. So the next one we have the number 3 ranked undefeated Texas A&M Aggies visiting the number 22 ranked 6-2 Missouri Tigers. Thoughts on this game?
My thoughts are that this would have been a much better game if Bo Pribula wasn't out with an injury. Because these are two dynamic teams. They can play defense, Bo Pribula on one side, Marcel Reed on the other side, two dynamic, dual threat quarterbacks. And that would have been really exciting. But Bo Pribula's out. I'm not sure the Mizzou backup is good enough at this point of his development to play in a game this big and get the job done. So I like Texas A&M here. I think Mike Elko is doing a fantastic job. This defense is flying around, making plays, and he's really getting the most out of Marcel Reed, I feel like, as a quarterback. He's really helped him elevate his game, and that's pretty exciting. So, yeah, I think A&M wins here. I think it's comfortable. I don't think it's the touchdown spread we're talking about. So I've got Texas A&M 34, Mizzou 17.
Okay, so Texas A&M is probably one of the best offenses overall. Pretty sure they're 11th overall in overall and in points scoring. I think they're putting up 37 points a game, averaging about 260 through the air and about 200 yards on the ground.
It's amazing.
I like that the fact that they have a matchup in Missouri, because Missouri, as I've talked about, other than Texas Tech, I'd say Missouri has one of the best pass rushers as far as tandems in the country, and they put a third guy out there too. So I think that could possibly affect Texas A&M's offense early, and they're very, very stout against the run. On the other side of the football, I think the fact that they run the football at such a very high and effective rate could take a lot of pressure off of what Texas A&M is going to be throwing at that backup quarterback for the Missouri Tigers. So I think that the fact that Missouri's got Ahmad back there running and his effectiveness, knowing that he can change the game, I think is why they got this game as close as they do. I, however, still have Texas A&M pulling this out at a 31-20 outcome. Texas A&M.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if A&M wins this game, and if they win it convincingly, do they make a move up to number 2 in the polls potentially?
Because I mean, Missouri's still a good football team. I mean, without
that's what I'm
both
saying. Mizzou's
yeah.
a very good team. If you win and you win big, you're making an argument that maybe you deserve to be number 2 potentially.
Potentially, that is a good argument, especially the way these playoff rankings are built. I mean, it's just you never know.
No.
But moving on to the number 9 Oregon Ducks visiting the number 20 ranked Iowa Hawkeyes. Mike, I know we're excited about this one. Let's get into this one. Let's dive into it, brother man.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I mean, you look at Iowa, they have the number 1 offensive line in the country by Pro Football Focus grades, and it's not close. I think the number 2 team on offensive line play is Indiana, and Iowa's like 10 points ahead of them. And I've seen this offensive line in person. They are fast. They are huge. They can really, they're really impressive, every single one of them. And as a unit, they're terrifying. I mean, the way when they run that outside zone, they are so quick to get to the edge and block you out or in. And then you're depending on, one player, whether it's like a safety or an outside linebacker in the hole, who better make that tackle because everybody else is blocked. Everybody else is blocked. Even on the ones they didn't break against us when we were playing them, it was like there were guys diving to make tackles, and if they didn't make the tackles, it was going to be a 60-yard touchdown. So I can't say enough about this Iowa offensive line. Mark Gronowski at quarterback is back to full health, and you can see that the way he's running the ball. Yes, is he a great thrower of the football? No, he's not a great passer. He's never going to play in the NFL or anything. But he's an incredible dual threat. I think he's got 11 rushing touchdowns on the year. And then, Iowa's got a couple running backs they like a lot as well. So, and don't forget, Iowa's number 1 weapon, in my opinion, is their return man and slot receiver, Caden Weechin. I mean, Lucian, he returned a punt for a touchdown before us. And I saw against us, and I knowing how good he is, when I saw he was catching it where he was, I was like, that's going to be 6. And he does. Damn. I mean, he is really explosive. And I think against an Oregon team that has a lot of speed, right? Oregon is a top recruiting school, both out of high school and out of the transfer portal. So they have a bunch of incredible playmakers across that whole defense. I think a guy like Dylan Thieneman at safety is going to have to show up and really make plays in the run game. That's the thing. Oregon's going to need its defensive backs to tackle today if they're going to have success, because Iowa's going to block up the guys in the front line.
Don't they have I saw that like 2 of their DBs were planning on entering the portal, so I know they're going to be skinny at defensive back, so that's going to be something also to keep an eye on too.
Yeah, especially
I thought it was very interesting.
Iowa doesn't throw very often, but when they do throw, they throw the ball downfield. So it's a matter of, can Iowa connect on those shots when they take a couple shots. They're not going to take a lot of shots, but when they take those couple few shots, can they connect and loosen up the defense a little bit? And then Oregon's got everything, really. They've got Dante Moore is a fantastic quarterback, and you've got in Noah Whittington and Davison and Hill, you've got a 3-headed monster at running back. All of those guys are averaging, 7, 8, 9 yards a carry. So Oregon can do so much, but I don't think Oregon's going to be able to run at will against this Hawkeye defense, because we talk about Iowa's defensive backs always tackle well. I think it's going to be up to Dante Moore to go into a hostile road environment and carry this offense, because I don't think Iowa's going to line up and just let you run the ball and beat them that way. I think it's going to take Dante Moore making plays down the field for Oregon to have a chance to win. And then you get to that great Phil Parker secondary. Excuse me. And I think Iowa's going to force a couple turnovers. I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be a slugfest. But I've got the Hawkeyes pulling off the upset at home by a count of 23-20.
Yeah, see, it's a strength on strength, and this seriously is what I would refer to as a legacy game for Dante Moore and the Oregon Ducks. At this point in the season, this is where you define yourself as a football team, especially going into what is a top-ranked matchup against an opponent that is basically geared to shut your offense down. I think that the Iowa Hawkeyes have done a tremendous job on the defensive side of the football, and today it's truly going to be tested because Oregon has some very, very elite athletes that can do wondrous things in space with the football. However, I think the Iowa Hawkeyes are going to pull the upset in a very, very close battle. I have the Iowa Hawkeyes 28-27 victory.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think something that's been disappointing this year for Oregon is the pass rush.
Exactly.
Going into this season, we really thought that with Tuioti and Uiagalelei, on different sides, that those guys would just be ripping it up. And they've combined for, I think, 7.5 sacks. I thought they might each have 7.5 sacks by this time. So it's going to be, Oregon has to force the issue. They have to attack this Iowa running game. You can't wait for them to come to you. You have to be blitzing, run blitzing, getting guys into the backfield, making the running back change directions before he hits the line of scrimmage. You have to do that kind of stuff. And you have to put a spy on Gronowski. Because if you turn your back to Mark Gronowski, he will take off and run on you. He's got that capability. He is that kind of athlete. So yeah, I think Iowa pulls off a close one. I'm really excited to watch this game. It's gonna be a really interesting one on CBS at 2:30. And I can actually watch this because I have YouTube TV, so I can't watch the ESPN games on my TV. I might stream them on my laptop illegally, but I can't watch them on my TV right now, which is absolutely annoying. And I am angry with Disney for not settling with YouTube TV, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, I had to rectify that situation and cancel some accounts this week and activate a completely different system so I can watch football because I can't go without it. So I feel your pain on that one, Mike, because I need to be able to watch some of these games coming up. And obviously they're huge. So let's jump right into the top matchups of the week that aren't ranked necessarily. At noon, we have the number 2 ranked Indiana Hoosiers, undefeated, rolling into the Penn State Nittany Lions. They are a 13.5-point favorite. What do you got on this one?
I read a report from a Penn State beat writer who said they get to watch part of practice every week, right? And he said it's the lowest energy practice he had ever attended at Penn State in all his years of being a beat writer. Sorry, I forget who the beat writer was. I forget, so I can't credit him. But he said that it's that bad that this team has checked out, that they've quit. And it looks like they've quit on the field. They've lost 5 in a row. They didn't get the fired coach bump the way UCLA and some other teams have. They have kind of,
No.
And Penn State, they can still run the ball. I think their run blocking is like fringe top 25, and Katron Allen is very high up in enforced missed tackles as a running back in that rating. So like Penn State can still run the ball, but Ethan Grunkemeyer, quarterback, is not it. He's not it. And so I think Indiana's going to crowd the box. They're going to play press man on the outside. They're going to dare Penn State to throw, and they're going to get in Penn State's face and make it tough. And then on the flip side, Indiana has a really good offensive line. So Penn State, where you'd think they had an advantage in the trenches, they really don't, because the Hoosiers are playing so well up front this year. And then the question for me is, do you get Elijah Surratt back at receiver? Because Omar Cooper's great, and they've got some other guys who can play, but Elijah Surratt for Indiana, he's, in my opinion, the second best receiver in the Big Ten, only behind Jeremiah Smith. So I'm curious to see if he plays, but regardless, this might be close. It's in Happy Valley, in State College. It might be close for a quarter or two, but I think eventually Indiana's too explosive, and they're too focused on trying to be undefeated and get that and win a Big Ten title. I think they're going to eventually pull out the belt and give it to Penn State a little bit. So I've got the Indiana Hoosiers 38, the Penn State Nittany Lions 20.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I don't really think this is going to be a matchup at all. I don't have any faith in Penn State putting up a fight. I think the Hoosiers are rolling right now, and I don't think the Nittany Lions are going to have anything different to say about it. I got Indiana 42, Penn State 14.
Right on.
And a big one. Moving along to the SEC matchup of Georgia, 5th-ranked Georgia at 7-1, going into the 5-4 Mississippi State. What do you got? Bulldog on Bulldog. Let's go.
I think Mississippi State is improving. You saw them go out and get the victory, a 3-point win over Arkansas last week. And they've been in, they're not getting blown out in these games that they're losing for the most part. They are competitive. They're scrappy. They fight really hard. I have a lot of respect. I think Jeff Lebby is doing a good job. I think he's a pretty good coach. And the fact that Georgia does not, the thing that Georgia's missing this year that they usually have is an elite pass rush. They don't have it. They can't get pressure on the quarterback. So that might give Mississippi State a chance to make some plays, to try to make some plays downfield. And that's something I think they're going to have to do if they're going to be in this game. They need Shapen, to hit, I think, a couple downfield passes early, try to open up the running game a little bit, keep Georgia on their heels. But I think this is close for a half. And then I just think Georgia's kind of figured out what to do with their personnel. I do like Fluff Bothwell a lot, also for Mississippi State. He's a great name and a good player. So I think they'll try to get him going early. But I don't know how much success they're going to have. Georgia cannot rush the passer as well as they usually do, but they're still pretty good at stopping the run. I think that's going to make it hard for Mississippi State. So, I think this is a valiant effort. I think State, I think they make it close for a while, but eventually Georgia, I think, is too talented and they pull away. So I've got Georgia 31, Mississippi State 20.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you. I think Georgia's coming off a tough battle with Florida. The Gators playing with that nothing to lose aspect that I'd say not every team plays with, as we discussed Penn State. I think this is a different Florida's in a different boat, as is some other schools, but I think Mississippi State is playing good football. However, I think at this point, Georgia's got their defense playing at a level to basically constrict you for 4 quarters, and Mississippi State not having an elite playmakers on the offensive side of the football And I think Georgia's ability to run the football is going to hurt and control the game. So I got the Georgia Bulldogs winning this one 35-17.
Right on.
In the next matchup, we have the 4-5 Auburn Tigers versus Vanderbilt, sitting at now 16th as of the playoff rankings. What do you got on this one?
I think the worst thing that happened to Auburn is that Texas beat Vanderbilt last week. Because I think you're going to get an angry Vanderbilt, coming out for a home game. Diego Pavia knows. I mean, 7-2, they got to win out if they're going to make the playoff. You're not getting there. Vanderbilt's not getting the nod at 9-3. Some school might, but Vanderbilt is not. So if they can beat Auburn, they've got Kentucky left and then at Tennessee. And that game at Tennessee could be an in-state rivalry playing for a playoff spot if Vanderbilt wins today. But they got to do it today. I like Diego Pavia a lot in this game. I think he will be his dual threat self, running the ball and throwing the ball. And it's just, I think it's going to be a thing where it's really hard for Auburn to keep up with a really motivated Vandy team. And I think look for the tight end Stowers to have a big day. Cheryl and Richardson, I think they're going to get involved too. I think Vandy's going to come out really pissed. I do. And I think Auburn, I'm not sure how much Auburn has left in the tank. Are they still caring about football with the uncertainty there and who's going to be the coach and all that kind of stuff? So there's a lot of distractions going on with Auburn right now. And I think this lays out well for Vanderbilt to win. So give me the Doors 28-17.
Yeah, I don't and will never pick Auburn to favor in any football game, no matter who they're going against, just because I don't give a damn about no Auburn Tiger.
Yeah.
I think Vandy, however, is going to bounce back in a big way. I think Pavia, the coach is going to have this team in a headspace that, listen, we control our own destinies now, and we have to play football at a high level, and we have to go handle business. So I have the Vanderbilt Troubadours handling business by a count of 38-23. The Vandy
Troubadours, huh?
Troubadours.
I think they're Commodores.
So. Commodores.
Yeah. Troubadours would be fun, though.
Commodores.
Troubadours would be a fun name for a football team.
I think that's what I call them, like, just to make fun of them.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, moving right along, we have the 23 ranked Washington Huskies visiting the ever so questioning program of the Wisconsin Badgers. They extended Fickle. Did they not?
They didn't extend him, but they announced that he will be returning as head coach next year. That he is officially not being fired, that he is coming back next year.
Okay, so they made.
They don't have. Look, my connections tell me they don't have the money to pay the buyout. Point blank, they don't have the money. So if they buy out Fickle, then they're in trouble monetarily. So they're going to give Fickle 1 more year, and then his buyout comes down, I think, significantly. And then if he can't get it done next year, then they'll fire him. But they're kind of, it's a dance with the one that brung you situation. They're stuck with Luke Fickle. Luke Fickle's stuck with them. And it hasn't gone well.
No.
Van Edwards in the chat says Luke has been very fickle about his job. And it's true. Here's the thing, Lucian, that is how I know Wisconsin is down bad. Right now, I think the top 2 recruits in Wisconsin are committed to Minnesota, and the next 2 are committed to Indiana. So Wisconsin is not recruiting in-state in a successful manner. And Luke Fickle has reportedly focused too much on Ohio and not enough on the upper Midwest, where a lot of, and in-state where you can get a lot of players. So the Wisconsin fan base is really upset with Wisconsin. At the same time, as bad as the Wisconsin offense is, and they're terrible, they are only averaging 12.5 points per game. This defense is good. especially the run defense. And Washington hasn't been able to run the ball this year. So if Wisconsin's going to have a chance in this game, it's going to have to come down to stopping the run and blitzing in obvious passing situations, making Washington one-dimensional and, getting to the quarterback, forcing turnovers. The problem is the quarterback you're talking about is Damon Williams. And Damon Williams is quite simply one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country. He is electric with the ball in his hand. When he runs it, he can throw it around the park a little bit too. With Denzel Boston at wide receiver, you have I believe, one of the 4 or 5 best wide receivers in the Big Ten conference in a year when the Big Ten has a lot of good receivers. Denzel Boston is a fantastic receiver for Washington. So I think at home in Madison, I think this is close for like a half. I think it could be at half. It might be like 10-7 Washington. And you're thinking, oh no, is this an upset? And then I think the dam breaks eventually. And I think Washington pulls away. So I have the Washington Huskies 24, the Wisconsin Badgers 10.
I like that. Like you said, Washington's quarterback is probably one of the most impressive I've seen, especially in his decision making and what he's able to do with the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
I saw Wisconsin firsthand, not like in real action, but the Todd faced them. They have a very good defensive line.
Yes.
Probably one of the top 5 in the country. They are big and they are physical, but they're going to be out there a lot. And that's what pretty much eventually was their undoing, is that the fact that they're going to be out there the whole game because Wisconsin doesn't have a quarterback or an offense. So I have the Washington Huskies rolling a little bit more. I have the Washington Huskies 28-17.
The rumor I've heard is that Wisconsin, because they're down to their 3rd string quarterback, the rumor I've heard is that they're going to bench him and play a true freshman who's a higher rated recruit than the guy they got playing now, who is a transfer from Southern Illinois. So it'll be interesting to see if that makes things any better or if it's even worse because you're putting in a guy who's never played. So if they do that, that'll be interesting to track as well.
Pickle out here gambling. I like it. This point in the season. Let's go. All right, moving right along. We have Wake Forest. Tough Wake Forest Demon Deacons versus the number 14th ranked Virginia Cavaliers. What do you got on this one?
I mean, I think Wake Forest is plucky and they're getting better and better. They've shown some things against some pretty good teams. They've won a few in a row. They barely lost to Georgia Tech. They had Georgia Tech on the ropes. They managed to find a way to beat Virginia Tech and SMU in a close one. And then they just got run off the field by Florida State. So this is an interesting game. I think, Dickert's doing a good job as the coach. Not Dickert. Sorry, excuse me. I forget. I'm blanking on Wake's coach's name right now. But he's done a good job, and they are, they're playing really hard. They're scrappy, but Virginia's still in the ACC title hunt. They still have a lot to play for, and I think at home they're probably a little different team than they are on the road. So Virginia, I think they need it badly. And I just think in a game like this against Wake, I think you see the quarterback play well, Morris. I think you see, you see them able to run the ball a little bit. And I don't think it's going to be like a blowout, but I do think Virginia finds a way to win this by 2 scores. So I think it's something like Virginia 27, Wake 17.
I think the same thing. I think Virginia is going to be too much for the Wake Forest right now. They're scrappy, but they turn the ball over. And the way Virginia's been able just to find a way to win a football game, I think this one is going to be no different. I got the Cavaliers 34, Wake Forest 21. Now we're getting into the nightcap matchup. It's at 7:30. I got the time wrong on here. So what do you got on this one? 5-3 LSU, the recently fired Demon Deacons with the legendary Frank Wilson at the helm now versus the number 4 ranked, my 4 ranked Crimson Tide. What are your
You want
thoughts
me
on
to
this
go
one?
first on the Alabama game? I mean,
Yeah, I'll hear
okay.
your thoughts, and then I'll go ham afterwards.
I mean, so LSU's offense just hasn't been it this year. They can't run the ball. It puts too much pressure on Garrett and Nussmeier. It makes them really one-dimensional. I think against an Alabama team that is as athletic and talented as they are, being one-dimensional on offense is going to be a disaster. And then on the flip side, Ty Simpson, he's right in that Heisman race. But if he's going to win it, he's got to show out in some higher profile games. This is a night game against LSU. And yeah, LSU isn't what they've been at times, but they're still a winning team and it's still a home game. And I just think that Ty Simpson's going to go berserk. I think LSU, I think they're ready to quit. They don't look like a team to me that's ready to fight. I think they're ready to quit. And I think Alabama's going to make them want to quit by the end of this one. So I think Alabama wins this one big. I've got the Alabama Crimson Tide 38, the LSU Tigers 10.
So to shed some light on this for the people that are watching the show that aren't diehard Alabama fans, when Alabama plays LSU, records go out the window.
Sure.
Coaches go out the window. This is an absolute rivalry game, especially there's deep in-seated history in this game for years and decades. This is not a normal SEC football game, and we flat out don't like LSU, but we respect them because of what they're able to do when they really don't have a lot.
Right.
And we remember as Bama fans a couple years ago, they were absolutely terrible in every other game except when they played us and they took us deep into the fourth quarter. This is a team, especially the coach that is now leading them, is an absolute legend in Louisiana. I think he's going to have this team hyped up. And that's why I half agree with you. I think this team might be dead and might be dead by the end of this football game, but they're going to come ready to play because they're not just representing themselves, they're representing the entire state of Louisiana. And I think they know the ground levitations in this game. At the same time, they also realize that this game could mean better things for the future of the program, what type of coach they're able to hire, what type of recruits they're able to bring in. Because I know as Alabama, we have a lot of recruits coming tonight. This was going to be a massive game before everything, all the drama of college football happened this season. LSU on defensive side, they're going to be missing Meeks. He is out. He has been ruled out, so he's not going to play. But they still got Harold Perkins. They still have the best cornerback in the nation, Mansour Delane. In my opinion, he's absolutely disgusting. But the rest of that defense is very, very suspect, and I think it's going to be good for Ty to get in a game where he's going to be playing absolute athletes throughout the game. Like I said, their defensive line has got some dudes that can create some things one-on-one. They have a decent pass rushers going throughout the line. Their linebackers play very, very fast. And they're LSU. It's gonna be a physical game. It's gonna be a smash mouth game for 3 and 4 quarters. But I think Ty on offense and what he's been able to do, and him getting a healthy Isaiah Horton and a healthy Latier Brooks, which we were without those two when we played South Carolina, is going to make a massive difference. And on the flip side, Alabama's defense has been able to absolutely take away what teams have been able to do best against them. So I think that they're going to put a lot of pressure. Our pass rushes come on. Yanze Pierre is actually leading the SEC in one-on-one pressures, according to Pro Football Focus. So I think he's going to have an absolute good day. This LSU offensive line, like I said, coming into this year is absolutely suspect. And I think Bama's pass rush, and it's been getting better and better every week. I think LT Overton, James Smith, and London Simmons and company are going to make a lot of issues for Garrett Nuss and that offense to get going. And I think Caden Durham's a very good running back, but I think he's going to run into a physical wall of defensive linemen because we do rotate about 8 guys out there. So I just think we're going to outlast them.
And
I think
LSU's
Ty
offensive
Simpson,
line is terrible.
exactly. They're not blocking anybody. They're not really doing a whole lot to keep Garrett, healthy. So upright. I got I'm not gonna give a score prediction, obviously, but Bama will cover big at home, and I think this is a beginning of a Ty Simpson legacy statement in November.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Ty Simpson wants to win the Heisman, you got Julian Sand, you got Fernando Mendoza, and it's Ty Simpson's got to not start, but he's got to keep putting up big performances in big games if he's going to get by those two guys. Especially because they're going to probably have the showcase against each other in the Big Ten title game, which will give one of them a boost. So it's important that Alabama keeps winning, that they make the SEC title game, so Ty Simpson has a legit shot to win it in New York.
All right, moving right along to our blowouts that I have for today. At 1 p.m., the number 1 team in the nation, undefeated Ohio State Buckeyes, roll into the Purdue Boilermakers. The spread is now 29.5 Buckeyes. Mike, thoughts on this one?
29.5. Woof. Here's what I'll say about Purdue. They're scrappy, they play hard, and they commit penalties all the time because they're not that athletic. So they will just clutch and grab, dare you to, and all over the field, offense and defense, and they'll dare you to call it.
Mike, it's now 30.
30. Yeah, okay, that sounds
It's
right.
now up to 30.
Up to 30. Been bid up to 30. So we're talking about a 5-score victory for Ohio State to cover. That's wild. But I think the Buckeyes can do it. Because Purdue, as hard as they play, as scrappy as they are, losing Devin Mockabee as running back for the year kills them because he's the guy who kept the chains moving and kept the defense off the field, Devin Mockabee. And so that puts a lot of pressure on quarterback Ryan Brown to be a dual threat and to do it all himself without Devin Mockabee there. I just think against this Ohio State defense, which I've said is not just a great college football defense, this is one of the best college football defenses I've ever seen. I don't think Purdue's going to score at all today. I don't think Purdue's going to get into the end zone. Maybe they kick a field goal at some point when they have good field position or something, but I don't have them scoring. I think Ohio State, I look at the over-under total is 49.5. I think Ohio State gets there by themselves. So I have they'll eventually call off the dogs, but I think even then they'll probably keep scoring. I've got the Ohio State Buckeyes 45, the Purdue Boilermakers 0.
So unless Purdue has that none on the sidelines that they had a couple years ago when they were absolutely upsetting some very impressive teams, I don't think they have an absolute shot in the darkness with a lightsaber. So
their secondary's slow, and we're talking about Carnell Tate and Jeremy.
Yeah, it's just not going to end well for them. So I would say give me the Boilermakers to absolutely get blown out 50-0. Mike, can we get there? What we got going on here? I think we're having some.
Yeah, I mine cut out for a second, so I'm.
Oh, I said, you there?
Mine cut out for a second, so I'm not sure what you said. Yeah, I'm here.
I said I got the Buckeyes winning 50-0. Like I don't think Purdue has a chance on offense. Like it's not going to happen for them. So
not without Devin Mockabee. Yeah.
No, I don't think this isn't even going to be a fun watch. No. Neither is the next one. I think the U, after what happened last week, the absolute heartbreak that happened, I think Syracuse better be in for an absolute destruction because I don't think it's going to be remotely close. I think the U is going to win this big, massive. Give me Miami Hurricanes. They're going to put up a lot of points. Let's call it 48-14.
Miami is going to need style points now that they have 2 conference losses. They are going to
Absolutely.
need the style points to make the playoff at 10-2 because they're probably not making the ACC title game at this point. So they don't have that to look for. They likely don't have that to look forward to. So they've got to win. They've got to win big. I think you're right. I think they do come out. I think Ruben Bain does damage. Syracuse, let's be real. They were pretty good when they had Steve Angeli, but since Steve Angeli got hurt, Syracuse is not dynamic offensively. They just don't have a quarterback capable of getting it done. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm not sure what the score is, but I think it's a lot to not very much. And Miami is gonna take care of business and say, hey, look at how bad we're how big we're winning all our games now. Put us in the playoff.
They have to. They absolutely have to. Moving right along, you have the California Bears versus the Louisville Cardinals. This is a 17.5-point spread. What do you got on this one?
I don't bet against Jeff Brom very often. They call him Big Game Brom for a reason. He's got everything humming. Louisville 7-1. I said before this season that Miller Moss would be a success with Jeff Brom coaching him. And I think at 7-1, it's been a success. Miller Moss is completing 65% of his passes, which is solid. 11 TDs. He does have 6 interceptions, so he will turn it over at times. And that's something to watch if Cal's going to have any chance. Look, Cal has a nice, Sangapula is a nice freshman quarterback, but he's still just a true freshman. And you've seen that a lot when you watch them play. He makes freshman mistakes and he's not, not necessarily a great player yet. I think he's going to be, but he's not necessarily a great player down to down, game to game yet. So I think Louisville wins. I think they win comfortably. And Jeff Brom is another guy who's looking for style points as he makes, this run towards a playoff spot. So yeah, give me Louisville. I think it's like 34-10.
Question before I give my thoughts on this game. Do you think this is just another audition for one of those open coaching jobs for Big Game From?
Here's the thing. Brom's a Louisville alum. He played for them.
Right.
So I don't think it's a guarantee he leaves. Like, if Penn State offers him the job, it's possible he takes it for sure. But I don't think it's a guarantee that Brom leaves Louisville. Louisville has pretty good NIL. He's got it really rolling there. It's his whole family's from there. So I think it would take a lot to get Brom to leave. He'd have to have a really good contract, and it'd have to be a really, really good job for him to consider leaving Louisville, because I think Louisville's where he always wanted to be, and he's there.
Fair enough. I got the Cardinals rolling big. I'm not going to go against Fromm. Give me the Cardinals in a massive, massive win. I think they're going to do some things on defensive side of the football that's going to confuse Cal. So I have the score at 42-23 Cardinals.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yes, sir. Moving right along to the Navy versus Notre Dame. Spread is 27.5 points. Mike, what are your thoughts on this one?
Navy's having a great year. They have a very good team. They do a good job. They're a service academy. They run the ball. They play defense. They don't beat themselves, right? They don't turn the ball over a bunch. Notre Dame's really good at playing these service academy teams because they play them so much. So Notre Dame has a lot of practice and a lot of institutional knowledge about how to take on a triple option attack and to negate it and make it hard for them to do anything. So I don't think this is much of a game. Notre Dame's just got too many athletes. And I think if you got athletes and they know what their assignments are, you're going to shut down a triple option team. So I think Notre Dame wins big, like 45-13 or something like that. Like, I think Navy's good. They're a very good team, but I don't think that they have what it takes to roll with the Irish.
Yeah, I don't. As much as I'd like to pick Navy in this one, I'm with you. I think Notre Dame's just gonna have too much. So give me the score something like uh I don't think Notre Dame covers though.
You
I
don't think
don't think
so?
they
Yeah,
cover.
I mean that would be a lot to cover, and and Navy has a really good quarterback in Horvath. He's got
Right.
almost 1,000 yards rushing on the season already, and 1,200
Yeah,
passing
so
or something.
give me Notre Dame to win it, but give me them 42-31. All right. The next game we got is an absolute routing. Citadel is visiting the Old Miss Rebels as a rehab game, as a get right game. Old Miss has played some very tough games lately, and now they're going to have a nice little in-game bye week. We'll get this one quickly. Obviously, Old Miss is favored by a massive amount, so we're not going to spend too much time on this. Uh, Thoughts, Mike?
My thought is that I'm really happy that the SEC is going to 9 conference games because playing the Citadel in November is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I'm glad the SEC is going to 9 conference games, and this is the last year we have to deal with the mid-November layup game that SEC teams schedule themselves.
I mean, I like it just because we actually have tough games throughout the entire season, unlike most other conferences that have, what we would refer to as cupcake games. But, I think and this is a thing that I think he got from Saban because Saban was the originator of scheduling a in-game bye week before you have to play the final gauntlet of your season. So I think that's where a lot of the SEC coaches get that from, and the athletic director as well. And quickly reflecting on this game last night, the Friday Night Lights between the USC Trojans and the Northwestern. What are the Northwestern? What are
The
the Northwestern?
Wildcats.
The
Willie the
Wildcats. That's what
Wildcat.
it is.
Yeah, they're boring mascots.
Yeah,
Not great.
definitely.
Willie the Wildcat is
Uh,
not my favorite Big Ten mascot.
no. Thoughts on this game?
I mean, Northwestern was in it. It was 14-14. It was, I think, 21-17 even at a point. So Northwestern was in this game. They run the ball. They have a good defense. Komalafe is a really good power back. He's really good at getting yards after contact, which helps that Northwestern. Northwestern's got a pretty good offensive line. But USC, man, they're too much. They are too much with when Jaden Maiava, is playing well, he's really hard to stop. He gets in a groove
Right.
and he just, I mean, he, is completing almost 67% of his passes, 10 yards per attempt, 17 TDs already. And, they have Mekhi Lemon. They have Jacoby Lane, who had a really nice game last night. They have at tight end Lake McCree. I mean, they have these weapons at line in their receiving core that most teams in college football just don't have. So I do, and they run the ball well with King Miller, even with Waymon Jordan out. They've done well with King Miller carrying the rock. So I thought Northwestern put up a good fight and made this interesting for a while, but USC again. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see if USC can make a legit playoff run.
I agree.
Because where they're sitting right now, they're 7-2. And they have tricky games left. They still have to play Iowa next week, and then they have to go to Eugene to play the Ducks. So if they're going to win, then USC has to stay really hot here because those are 2 losable games. And then, of course, they finish with the rivalry game against UCLA, and UCLA has been really improved too. So USC is still in this playoff hunt, but it's not going to get any easier going forward. So I think it was a good win last night for them. And for Maiava, after he played so poorly against Nebraska, he only went 9 of 23 against Nebraska. I think it was good for him to bounce back. and to play a lot better.
Yeah, like you said, USC's been they've impressed me this season. I did not think that they were going to be playing this level of football that they've been playing.
No,
I
me either.
think the Lincoln Riley has done a good job. You are never going to probably hear me say that again,
Yeah.
but I think that he has definitely quieted some people that, including myself, that didn't believe that he was going to have this program in being in this position in the playoffs. So if they could keep it going forward, it's going to be interesting, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. No,
So,
the Iowa USC game next week will be fascinating.
Mike, before we get out of here, I want to touch on obviously the rankings that happened um, on Tuesday night. So let's quickly look into that real quick. What surprised you about these rankings?
I was pleasantly surprised that both Iowa and Washington were ranked. I think that the SEC and the Big Ten are the two best conferences in college football. They've separated themselves from the rest of the pack, both on and off the field. And I was glad to see that reflected in these rankings. So I think you had, 9 SEC teams and 7 Big Ten teams ranked out of 25. And I think that feels fair given how good those leagues are at this point, to have that. So that jumped out at me. Ohio State continuing to be at number 1 jumped out at me. You can argue that Indiana's been even more impressive than Ohio State, but Ohio State continues to cling to 1, and A&M then at 3, and and then it'll be, you got that jumble of SEC teams. So it'll be really interesting to see which SEC teams make the title game, because they're going to have, that leg up when it comes to how they get ranked in, once we have the actual college football playoff.
Well, the interesting thing is there's only going to be the only 2 schools that are eventually play each other won't be till the SEC game. So if everybody wins out, it'll be Texas A&M versus Bama, because no one of these other teams play each other.
Right.
Which is very interesting. But looking at the bracket too is interesting how they have this set up. So as of right now, as of this week, is what they had.
But the loser of the Big Ten title game isn't going to be number 2. They're going to be number 3, probably.
Right. So these would be probably switched.
You probably flip A&M and Indiana, if you're really looking at what it looks like. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I mean, it would be really interesting, though, to get a rematch of Notre Dame, Indiana, because I do think Indiana's significantly better this year than they were last year. And I'm not convinced that Notre Dame is quite as good this year as they were last year. So I think an Indiana Notre Dame game could be really interesting. Ole Miss, Virginia. Oh man, I don't even know what would happen there. That'd be pretty interesting too. Memphis, though, got knocked out by Tulane last night. They might be done from a playoff perspective.
I think.
Because Memphis has 2 losses now, and they just lost to Tulane. So they might be in trouble as far as making the playoff. But yeah, whoever the group of 5 in, is nobody wants to play Georgia ever in a playoff. That's for sure. A Georgia-Alabama meeting in a playoff would be interesting. A potential Oregon-Ohio State game in a playoff would be really interesting after what happened, between those 2 teams having the close game last year and then the Ohio State just dominating the rematch in the Rose Bowl. So yeah, there's a lot of really intriguing storylines. A&M Ole Miss, that would be a really interesting quarterfinal kind of game. So yeah, it's wild that we're finally at the time of year where it's worth talking about the playoff, because I don't like when people in September are like, well, what about the playoff? And I'm like, we have no idea who's going to win or lose. Now,
and if we'd have went by that, we'd have been talking about Penn State, Clemson, LSU, 3
Notre
teams
Dame
that aren't even in it. Notre Dame, like we're talking about, like preseason, we're talking about some teams that were supposed to be, top 4 teams in the country, and they're not even sniffing the playoffs right now.
No.
So it's like that's why we can't start talking about football until football's ready to be played. We can't start talking about the playoffs until the rankings actually come out. and we actually can see what's going on going forward. So
yeah, so I think it's finally good to start talking about the playoffs. So yeah, I love it. I love the fall weather we're getting. It's nice and cold here finally, which I'm enjoying a lot, and the trees changing colors and getting to be the time of year where football means a lot and every game counts. Every game is for playoff positioning or bowl or conference positioning for bowl season and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, recruiting, and it comes to a head because guys are taking lots of official visits for these games this time of year. So that makes it the games are even more important that you win with the recruits there watching you. You don't want to put on a bad performance in front of a bunch of recruits.
Right.
So I'm excited. I'm really excited for the home stretch this last month of the regular season.
Me too, brother, man. It's going to be a very, very, it's going to be fireworks finishing, and that's just going to be the best part about it.
Yep. And I am ready to illegally stream BYU Texas Tech. So Disney, you're not getting any more of my money. I'm not dropping YouTube TV. I'm just going to watch those games illegally. So you're not really winning this. Just want Disney to know that if they're watching.
Well, Disney's always watching because they're just that's a whole different story, Mike. But
yeah, that's a different
we'll
podcast.
Get out of here. That's a different podcast. We'll do that on a different day. But we'll get everybody out of here. Everybody get ready. Stay safe for a big weekend of football. Thanks everybody for coming out. Mike, take us out with the phrase.
Sky you ma, row the boat, go Gophers. And also check out my Big Ten podcast, We Live for Saturday.
We Live for Saturday. Check it out. Was that on Wednesdays?
We're going to put out the preview and review episodes. This week we usually do the preview on Monday and the review on Sunday or Monday, and then the preview on Tuesday or Wednesday. So this next week it'll be Monday for the review and Tuesday for the preview.
All right, so everybody stay tuned for Monday and Tuesday, Mike and his show. Tune into that. It's good stuff. It's giving me a lot of insight to some of my points this season. So it's Roll Tide for me. All the Alabama fans, I want you to get ready for an absolute war tonight. We got the Tigers. They're there already cooking. It smells good. I'm excited. I'm excited for football today.
Yeah, big game for you guys.
Big game. Roll Dadgum Tide. See you guys next weekend.